I'm Laura Bonnell, and this is the Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast coming to you from Detroit. Please subscribe and even rate and comment on our podcasts when it moves you. I learn something new with every podcast, and I'm always inspired by the people that are showcased here. We don't give medical advice. You need to connect with your doctor for that. I hope that this Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast educates you and sparks some volunteering or advocacy. The CF community needs people like you. Thanks to our sponsors, Viatris and Vertex, for their support. Michael Armstrong is a 25-year-old pre-law student. He loves to read, paint, play card games and video games, and he was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis as an infant. And we're talking about his CF journey and how life took a turn when he was being evaluated for a lung transplant in 2023 and 24. Michael, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to be here.
And, you know, you were in one of our first calendars, you and your brother, way back. I don't know if it was 2003.
Way back when I remember being like so small, just a little kid, barely a memory.
Yeah, so it was great. And then your dad, Tom, was on the Bonnell Foundation board for years.
Yep.
And we love him. And I just saw him the other day and saw Carol. So it was really nice. So I'm glad you have a great support group because it's really important.
Yeah, it absolutely is. You know, it's like one of the most important things. I mean, this is true of anybody, not just somebody struggling with something large with them, like a disease or disability, is a support group. You need friends, you need family. And over time, the line between those two becomes really blurred, and they're all just one big support group for you. And I've got all of those things, couldn't ask for a better one. Love everyone in my life.
So well said, yes. And since I've known you almost your whole life, even though I don't see you all the time, but I'm definitely, your dad fills me in. What is your first memory of cystic fibrosis? And I guess, how did it impact you once you realized the possible and likely severity of the disease?
Right, yeah. So we knew I was going to have cystic fibrosis at birth. They did the testing while my mother was pregnant because both my parents were aware that they've got the genes for it. It's a possibility. Let's figure this out. They knew before I was going to be born, so it wasn't like a shock to them or anything. They took steps to prepare for it. And just knowing from birth, because of that, there was never like a formal like sit down of any kind or like really big like talk and explanation about it. It was always just sort of a fact of life. And so as a kid, it just to me meant that I had certain things I couldn't do more on the physical side. It meant that I would miss school. I had frequent hospitalizations. These were all just part of life. I was not cognizant of the further ramifications of what this disease means for later on in life. The fact that it's progressive and I will eventually die of respiratory failure, that didn't come later until I was in like high school. And I started realizing that. I was like, oh man, that's really scary. And I like freaked out about that for like my first 2 years in high school. Now I was just like, I gotta find some way to deal with this, man. But you do. I think everybody who's come this far, continues every day with this disease, has found their own way to deal and cope with this. I think that if you're still here, you figured something out. So it gets easier over time, I guess.
And in that train of thought, I also wondered, do you feel like CF has brought some good into your life?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not all bad. And first and foremost, I have to thank it for my sense of humor. It's given me the ability to sort of just like laugh at the absurdity of the situation. I got this super rare, super low chance of having disease that affects multiple parts of the body. It just keeps going and spiraling. And like, at some point you just start laughing at like, all right, sure, whatever. I drew the short stick, and it becomes like funny almost. And I think that sort of, levity or ability to laugh at that has also just allowed me to laugh at a lot of other things. There's a lot of times it's hard to get under my skin. There's a lot that's just water off the back, I think it has made me a very calm and collected person. Even when you're having a bad day, a bad span of days, a bad month, a bad year, you're cognizant of the fact that I've been through this before. I know what this is going to look like. I'll get through this. I've had worse days. I'll have better ones. It's going to be okay.
I mean, it is a really healthy way to look at it, but I know how much because of my girls and talking to other parents, how much you all go through having this disease. And I mean, you're in pre-law. It's not like you're, lounging on the beach every day.
Yeah.
You've got like pre-law. I mean, you've got big plans. So how is the daily coping with just the physical demands of cystic fibrosis and then all the mental challenges of, college?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the physical demands of getting your exercise in, taking your meds, I think anybody with cystic fibrosis you talk to is going to tell you the same thing. No, we're not perfect about it. We skip days. Some days it's just like, no, I'm not doing that. You're cognizant of the fact that, yes, I should be doing this 24/7. This gives me the best chance of things coming out okay for as long as possible. But as you go through life, you learn, sometimes it's just not worth it. The trade-off is, look, man, sometimes I just want to live my life. We're going to live my life today. We'll deal with the physical challenges of what comes with this tomorrow, the next day, the day after, So there's that aspect to it. And then as far as the mental state it puts you in, the challenges you face in regards to how you're feeling. And, oh, hello, Ben. That was my cat.
Cute cat.
Yeah, he's adorable. I think some of the important things to do is, as you noted, or as we talked about sort of at the start of this episode, your support group, right? Your friends, your family. So important to have people in your life you care about, because you care about them, they care about you, two-way street. So when you're having a bad time, they can absolutely help you get through it. Super important to have people to rely on. And then just doing one small thing, every day that makes you personally happy. Don't do it for anybody else. Find something small every day that's just this is a good reason to do stuff today because I got to do this. Whether it's some hobby, I enjoy reading, painting, video games. Those are all fantastic time wasters. It's good to get physical too. Go take a walk. It's amazing how what going outside does for your mental health. Really, really good just to get out there, go do something, leave your house. The world exists outside your house. Go experience it. Or sometimes it's something really tiny, just I stopped at the gas station on my way home and got a big energy drink and some light candy. Fantastic, wonderful. So it's just a combination of have people you care about, find something small, gets you out of bed in the morning.
And that's all great advice. And I do wonder, too, because people are listening who are either going to be going to college with CF or their parents are worried, oh, my gosh, are they going to do their treatments if they, stay in a dorm? What advice do you have for those parents? And did you ever go to therapy or do you think about it? Do you find that would be helpful?
Yeah, so as far as navigating college life with, and this is true of literally any disability, this is not exclusive to cystic fibrosis, every college has a resources department, some sort of Title IX coordinator, or there is a department that deals with students who need extra. And so coordinate with your doctors, talk to your doctors, be write me letters, get in contact with these people, give me something I can give to the college to go hey man, sometimes it's this. And generally you and your college, you will work something out that works. It's not a big deal. You'll figure it out. And sometimes you also just lessen your workload there. Go at a slower pace because the challenges you face physically, what you have to do to take care of yourself are demanding. So make sure you leave time for that. So that's that. And then as far as therapy, to talk about more of the emotional concerns of that, yeah, I think it's a wonderful thing. Everybody should try to find a therapist that works for them. I myself have used therapy intermittently. I've seen a couple therapists. I tend to, Ben, we're not playing with that right now. Sorry.
Kitty cats always get
He's
their way,
always
right?
getting into something. Sorry. But so yeah, go see a therapist. I myself have seen a few over the years. There's one I see intermittently on and off right now, whenever I just feel like I've hit a low point or a slump and I'm I need some sort of direction or guidance here. They are professionally trained to understand and give you answers to questions you yourself can't figure out. That's their whole thing. Coping mechanisms. It's another form of support. Yeah, it's really look into it, which is a lot easier said than done. It is hard to find a therapist that feels like it works for you. You might have to shop around a little. It's hard to find one. There is a shortage, but really, really put in the effort to try and find one because it is extraordinarily helpful to talk to one.
And how do you decide? I know my girls went from telling everybody in high school, because everybody knew since they were diagnosed, and then college being more selective. And I just wondered how you feel about disclosing that you have cystic fibrosis. Is it something you think about, or is it, how do you handle that
conversation? So like I definitely just never at all bring it up with like surface level relationships I have. So that would be like my peers in all my classes who we just talk during class and nothing outside of that, or maybe work on something together in class. Those people are never, ever going to know. I'm going to see them once in my life and never again. There's no reason they need to know that. It's more about the meaningful connections you make when you make a friend or start dating someone, have a partner. I do think that there's some level of upfront honesty you need to get once you've decided that this is a person I would like to continue to have in my life, and I think they are a good person. You need to be honest with them upfront about like, hey, I've got XYZ, this amount of baggage, if you want to call it that, and just kind of like discuss like what it means to you and how, if you think it might impact whatever relationship that you're trying to forge, tell them about it. Most people are pretty understanding and go like, wow, thank you for sharing this. I feel like we have connected on a deeper level now. And never have I met anybody who's just like, gross, whatever, goodbye. Like, it's not, people are pretty understanding. So definitely, whenever you're trying to forge a meaningful connection, open up to people. They won't reciprocate in kind, and you will have forged a meaningful connection via that route.
I'm so glad that that is the truth and happening for you. It's really good to hear that there aren't like bad stories about sharing, because my girls have had the same wonderful reception of people knowing. So it is good. And I wanted to ask you, too, because we mostly talk to adults, and I want it from your perspective. There's a lot of parent guilt. So I have 2 daughters with CF. That's all they've known. But the healthier one always felt bad they weren't as sick as a sick one. And there was some of that rivalry. And then your brother does not have CF. So I wondered, is there rivalry? Because either way, parents are like, oh my gosh, am I paying too much attention to one child over the other? Like, how does it feel for you and your brother?
Sure. So there is not currently, nor has there ever really been, any animosity between my brother and I. Growing up, yeah, I mean, we'd fight, but that's normal, like, brother stuff. It was never over, like, our parents love you more than me, how dare they? That was never a factor in our relationship. My brother, shout outs to Thomas. Hi, Thomas, I love you. Best brother in the world, like, could not ask for a better one. Just a fantastic person, great guy. I mean, honestly, I gotta hand it to him, because going back to, you know, the idea of, like, parental guilt of I have to focus on this one child more than the other due to the nature of the circumstances. Hand it to my brother for never letting that affect him or be like angry or jealous or, and I'm sure there are points where he felt those things, like absolutely. Like it was a raw deal for my brother to have, for me to be like this, to like, which makes my parents spend so much more time with me. It's kind of a raw deal for him, and I'm surprised that he had the grace and dignity to never let it come between us. He was always very understanding about it. So no, my brother's fantastic.
That is wonderful to hear. And, you know, we keep seeing your beautiful black cat. And, you know, sometimes my cat does walk by too. Oh my gosh. For anyone who can't see this, he is it's Ben, right? He is just precious.
Yeah, he's adorable.
Just precious.
He absolutely loves people. He loves being manhandled. He's loving this right now.
So cute. And I wonder, are animals and pets important?
Yeah, absolutely. Not only from the perspective of you have a companion that is by your side, like always, because they're your pet and they love you, but it also gives you some modicum of like responsibility. It's another reason to get up in the morning. Some mornings you really don't feel like it. You're tired, you're sick, or you're emotionally drained. But then comes my cat, Ben, at 6 a.m. yelling at me, my food bowl's empty. Come on, dude, we got to fix this situation. So it's another reason to get out of bed and go, all right, I've got something to do. I've got one thing I have to get done. I got to take care of my little guy. So
that is great. And I wondered, how's school going? Like, do you know what your future plans are? Do you know what kind of attorney you want to be, or...
Yeah, I mean, school's going well. I'm still enjoying it. Otherwise, I'd be doing something else. Taking it slow, looking like a year and a half. I can start actual law school, which is great. absolutely no idea what kind of attorney I want to be yet. I mean, one of the reasons I was drawn to this, I mean, I read a lot of like lawyer like novels as a book, which I always found interesting, but one of my cousins was for several years a criminal defense attorney, and there were occasions where he'd just send me some stuff to look over, some minor stuff to help him with on some cases, and I always thought that was really interesting. Now, doing that year after year, I don't know. I feel like I'd start to like not be able to sleep at night. I don't know if criminal defense is the right way to go, but it's an interesting aspect of it. I don't know. Like I've always thought maybe something with like some sort of like group that focuses more on like the disenfranchised or like any sort of group who may not get the best or most fair representation if they need legal services. Maybe like those who can't afford it or a minority group of some sort. Just, I want to be someone who gives back. I would like to help the underrepresented. So whatever field that takes me into, sort of the long-term goal here is just give back.
It's wonderful. I'm so glad that you're talking with everybody and helping people feel so much hope about the future and hearing your enthusiasm for everything you're doing. So thank you for that. Yeah. And I want to know what your hopes are for the future for yourself and for the CF community.
I think like my sort of motto or mantra for as long as I've been cognizant of the fact that I won't be here as long as everyone else has been, it's a pretty simple like rule to live by. You try and make someone happy and leave the world a slightly better place than when you found it, which is a big task. Don't know how we're gonna get that one done, but just be the reason that like someone is happy and smiles and is grateful to have you in their life. Be a good person. Do unto others as you would want done to you. So as far as like future goals, make people happy. Don't leave the world in a worse spot. As far as for myself in relation to cystic fibrosis and the cystic fibrosis community at large, I mean, I think the same thing everybody wants at this point, you know, an actual cure. Modern medicine is making fantastic strides. I mean, you look like decade after decade of just ridiculous improvements we've seen in the medicine you can take, the treatments available. Lifespans are being extended more so than like ever thought possible, and that just keeps going up. So just keep pushing for something to finally like actually cure it all, not just improvements and extension, but something that you can take, something that can finally fix you, I think is the ultimate goal here, but who knows how far away we are from that. So might be a pipe dream, but who knows?
And you know, you say you think you might have a shortened life, and I know that's the reality of CF, but it made me sad to hear you say that. And I just wonder, because take us through, you were on the transplant list and then started the CF modulator and got off the transplant list.
So I wasn't quite ever on the transplant list. It was, so the timeline's a little mixed up here. I was on the modulator. I started Trikafta. That was like late 2019, 2020. And I mean, wow, what, like, miracle drug, like, definitely selling it just about right. Not in terms of like long-term stuff, like you still have
well,
to.
not a cure.
Right, exactly.
Absolutely
but
not
like,
a cure.
It's amazing how much it fixes in your day-to-day life. Like, it's the little things that all add up. However, again, pointing back to not a cure, it is not a cure-all. It doesn't fix everything. There are still times when your health will still decline. It is still a progressive disease, and that's what happened. A few years after I had been taking it regularly, like 2023 to 2024, I mean, my health was just in the gutter for like that entire span, like in and out of the hospital like every other month. So I started the lung transplant evaluation process, as you've mentioned here, saw doctors for that, spoke to them about what it would look like, sort of starting the process of should I believe the last meeting I had with them was like the next time you have a serious hospitalization, we're gonna like start looking at getting you on the list. You're cleared for the evaluation and all that. Now, luckily, my health has bounced back since. I have not been hospitalized since, and I have improved in all the aspects I wanted to see improvement on, which is fantastic. So that, again, is on the back burner. But that's sort of the thing and the hope and the reason to push for a cure is because, yeah, I'm on Trikafta. It does wonders. It's a fantastic modulator. But the reality of it is I still have cystic fibrosis. There's still going to be times like that. I have no, like, delusions about the fact that I'm like perfectly healthy now. There will be times when my health tanks again. I will probably go back to looking at lung transplants again, and we'll see where it goes from there. So,
and I like that you speak the reality, and it's probably not fair to put on you that it made me sad, so I apologize for that.
That's fine.
It was just, I guess we're all figuring it out, but I do like that you are living in a reality. I think it's obviously it's honest and it's helpful to others, and it is important to point out that there aren't cures. There isn't one cure yet. People are still dying, even though they're taking CF modulators. It's just a wonderful tool in, helping everyone hopefully get healthier. So it is important to talk about the reality.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you talking about it.
Yeah.
And I guess it's probably my issue. It's hard to hear as a parent, even though I'm not your parent.
I mean, that's another sort of reality of this that, I should hope that everyone who has cystic fibrosis, or again, any major disability disease, is like be cognizant of like how much your parents like sacrificed for you. Like it's being a parent is a hard job. I have no interest in doing that. No, thank you. I can't imagine how much harder of a job it becomes when you have like major medical life problems that your child has, and you're the one responsible for them. And the challenges that come with that, the sacrifices you have to make. I could not do it. My dad is a stronger man than I am. Thanks, Dad. I love you. It's hard on them, and I feel like it's important to recognize that and like give your parents like some leeway, man. Cut them a little slack, like. A little bit of grace and nuance goes a long way.
Well, I think you're extraordinary, and I think if you were a parent, in addition to being a parent for your kitty, I think you will handle it just fine, because listening to you are so smart, and so thank goodness we have you in the future. Don't underestimate yourself. You are incredible. I'm so glad we are talking and other people get to hear about you. You're busy, you're pre-law, but are you thinking about advocating for CF in the future? It's kind of maybe a little bit of what you talked about once you're an attorney, but what are your thoughts on advocacy and getting involved?
Yeah, so my own personal experience is, unfortunately, I'm not like really involved with the cystic fibrosis community at large. I remember like growing up, whenever I was in the hospital, there'd always be like outreach programs and like online like discussion groups with people with cystic fibrosis, and I tried those out, and I'm certainly not like here to rag on anybody who really found that helpful, because I can absolutely understand how that would be. But I don't know. I think when you gather like that many people, and it's like a support group, like for everyone experiencing the same thing, there's a lot of like bitterness and resentment that comes with that, which is completely understandable. You absolutely have a golden ticket to complain about how like hard your life is, but I just didn't find it for me. And so because of that experience growing up, I just never got involved with the community at large. But I'm certainly in support of like advocacy, any like community outreach that the cystic fibrosis community at large thinks of and is like, yeah, we all kind of agree this is a good thing to push for. Yeah, absolutely, I'll support that. If somebody comes to me and is like, hey, I want to get involved with this thing, I think you could help with this, I'd absolutely give them my time and lend them an ear, And so yeah, going back to future plans, if my path takes me down, like if I become some sort of disabilities advocate or anything, yeah, I'll like gear towards cystic fibrosis then and help in that regards. I'm certainly open to it. The reality is I'm just not doing much right now.
And that's fine. There's no shame in that. And I like the honesty. When we started out after our girls were diagnosed, we went to some support groups and we wanted to jump off a cliff. They were so negative.
Right.
They were horrible. So I totally get that. And everybody does things at different stages. This is advocacy.
Yeah.
You're advocating now for people your age, and I really appreciate it. I appreciate your time. And is there anything that you want to wrap up this podcast with? that you want to shout out to any of your peers that are also in their 20s around your age with CF?
I'm the only guy I know with it, but for anybody listening, for those of you I don't know who are struggling with this or having a difficult time, I've been there. I know exactly what you're going through, which with this disease is not something a lot of people can say. It's pretty rare. One day at a time, man. You're going to feel bad. You're going to feel like you're not accomplishing anything. Don't worry about it. One day at a time. Every day you wake up is a good day. So it's hard, but keep going.
Michael Armstrong, you're amazing.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Don't compliment me too much. My ego's going to get too big. It's going to be a problem.
Well, that's a risk I guess I'm willing to take. But thank you for coming on the podcast and talking with us. It was great. Your dad's been on the podcast, and I'm so glad this worked out. Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you
your
for
truth
reaching out and having me. This was fantastic, and feel free to reach out if you think I could be of assistance with anything else you need.
I will, absolutely. The original music in this podcast is performed by Kevin Allen.
It's not complicated.
Who happens to have cystic fibrosis.
We all got our worries and fears. I know what's got you frustrating, but loving you is so alright.
This has been the Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast. For more information and to learn more about the Bonnell Foundation, visit our website at thebonnellfoundation.org. That's the BONNELL Foundation.org. This podcast was sponsored by Vertex Pharmaceutical, The Science of Possibility, and Viatris. It was produced by Jag and Detroit Podcasts. Follow our show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now.